Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carl Prusa MMA. I am with one half of the XFC 52 co-main event. He is Mr. Darion Abbey, making that return to the cage. You know, you've seen him in Game Bread, you've seen him in XFC, you've seen him in a bunch of different regional promotions all across the country. He's getting a huge fight coming up. Darion, what's going on, my friend? How are we?
I'm great, man. Just ready to scrap. We're 5 days away now, so just working hard, and camp's over basically at this point, and just ready to get in there and do the damn thing.
Absolutely. This is a fight that if anyone has followed you or Alex Nicholson on social media, didn't take a genius to see that this one might have happened one day to finally be able to get the opportunity and, for it to be on paper and official. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. We've had words back and forth a few times. Nothing crazy. I don't think not too crazy, but yeah, I've always kind of respected Alex. We were on the same card together for Game Bread 3. He fought Tony Lopez, and I was the co-main event. And he earned my respect that night because he knocked out Tony twice in one night. Tony argued with the ref. They let him keep fighting, and Alex was like, all right, whatever, I'll keep fighting you. And then knocked him out again. So that was pretty dope. And since then, I've kind of been a fan of him. And then they offered me him for Game Bread a couple years ago, but it didn't work out with my schedule. And I've been trying to get the fight ever since. And we've had our words back and forth, and 5 days from making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You're on quite the winning streak yourself. 2 big victories coming off, both in Iowa. Do you feel a lot of momentum going into this one?
Yeah, especially because they're so close together. This will be my, third fight in 4 months now, less than 4 months. So usually when I do that, the emotion and the stress isn't as high. So, yeah, I enjoy it. I'll fight every week if I'm healthy enough and the payment's right.
No, absolutely, man. You've been doing this for quite a while, and a lot of people, they don't realize how far mixed martial arts has evolved over the years. 25 years ago, people were calling this human cockfighting. It was like the wild, wild west. Now we're in such an era where social media is such a prevalent part of things because it's such an entertainment, personality-driven era. It feels like, to make it to the UFC now or the big shows, you have to have some sort of following, you have to have some sort of character. How do you feel like this is really, personality entertainment has impacted being a mixed martial artist in this day and age?
I think the internet's a big part of it, for sure, because you can actually make a name for yourself and not have to worry about people like looking in a newspaper to see who you are, or waiting till a Saturday night when the UFC comes on for people to actually know who you are. I think regional scenes are getting, or like the regional promotions, they're bigger than ever for social media reasons and streaming platforms and everything else. So as far as media and everything and the evolution of the sport, I think that the internet and everything like that has been a big help for that.
And I think another thing we're seeing this day and age is there's so many more regional promotions, which is a great thing. But, if you see some of them, they like to kind of pick their favorites, and they kind of pick these guys, and I wouldn't say easy opponents, but they give them winnable fights that go into their favor. And you have
Starting
guys
to look more like boxing.
a little bit. And you have guys now in the UFC are undefeated, 10 and 11 and 0. They go in there and they're out of there within the first 3 or 4 fights because they're just not ready for it. You're a guy, you have fought very high level competition. Obviously Tim Johnson, Frank Tate, a bunch of top guys as an amateur. You're fighting Alex, a guy who's fought on almost every single promotion. For you, with the dream of trying to go to the UFC, trying to go to the big shows, do you feel these are the only type of opponents you should be fighting?
Yeah, for sure. Because then when I get there, I know my path there wasn't easy, so I know I belong there, So like, and I think it also is gonna make my path there easier in the long run. It's like, okay, well, this guy's got 4 losses, whatever, but he's fought and lost to these guys, and then he fought and beat these guys. Okay, well, he's ready to go, I think that is more important than a guy being 12-0 fighting guys with all losing records. You usually see that in boxing, and then when they fight, like you said, they fight tough opponents, they get knocked out pretty quick because they weren't really actually ready, unless they've got a extensive freaking amateur career, which some of these guys don't have either. Some of these guys just going straight pro, which is crazy to me too.
Talking about an extensive freaking amateur career. I mean, you look at your topology, and I mean, almost the whole thing is the amateur career. I mean, you've had so many fights. For you, how important was it to, really get much experience as you could, get to the point where you're as well rounded as you are today before taking that next leap?
Um, and I honestly wish I would have stayed amateur for another 2, 3 years. To be honest, I wasn't mentally ready to go pro. I think that's the biggest leap is the mental aspect of it. It's like, all right, it's easy to go in there and fight when there's nothing on the line, like for both guys, there's no paycheck, it's whatever. I can hit you, and he's like, whatever, I got to work tomorrow, I'm done. Versus you go in there with another professional, you're taking half my money away. So some of them blows you hit me with, I'm not gonna care because you're about to take my money away from me. So fuck that. I'm staying on my feet. Um, so that's a big change for sure. Um, and then outside of that, the knees, the elbows, stuff like that. I honestly think that knees and elbows should be allowed a little bit more than they are in amateurs, just because like if you've never experienced a knee or an elbow and you take a pro fight and you get kneed or elbowed in the face, it's a totally different ball game. So I think those should be allowed as well. But I definitely think guys should have long amateur careers too, because it's a rough draft. You can't learn on the fly as much as a pro as you can as an amateur. If I go, tell me what Anderson Silva's amateur record was. Tell me what Ilya Taporia's amateur record was. You can't. These guys, it doesn't matter. So fight as much as you can as an amateur. Fight guys that are 10-0. Fight guys that are 13-0. Whatever. Get beat. I wish I would have got beat before I ever went pro because I never even experienced loss, so I didn't know how to handle loss. And then I had my first loss. I shut down mentally and then went into a fucking cave. So that's big too.
So many people watch the sport, and I feel like casuals look at the fighters and they'll be like, oh, you're only as good as your in-ring ability. The mental side of things obviously is huge. Are you one of those guys? Do you feel that fighting is more mental than physical?
100%. I'm only ever worried about my mental anymore. In a fight, I know I prepared myself. I know I did everything right, so I know I'm like my body's gonna respond the way it's supposed to. But I've been telling people actually that like after them first 2, 3 minutes of the fight, it's not you versus another guy. It's you versus you. Your body takes over, the muscle memory, all the training takes over, and then it becomes more of don't quit on yourself. Once you start getting tired, that's when the fight starts. The fight doesn't start at the 15, like the 0-0 minute mark or whatever. It starts when the guys start getting tired and they mentally are like, shit, this sucks. I want to find a way out. But that's the hard part.
You're fortunate to train at one of the best gyms in the country over at Kill Cliff. I mean, we can do this whole show on who's training over there. It's so crazy. Do you feel like, in addition from them, obviously, you're brushing up your skills, your jiu-jitsu, your wrestling, you're striking with them. But do you feel being around those guys, you do help with the mental side of things, understand the business side of things, and understand how to conduct yourself in this sport?
Yeah, 100%. Little funny story. A couple weeks ago, when we first took this, I'll open up a little bit. When I first finally, like Alex said, yeah, and it was real. I'm sure most fighters get it, but I got it for sure. That like, oh shit, this is actually happening. Like I get scared when I finally sign that contract a little bit because it's like, ah, shit, this is real. So I and me and Alex, we're gonna have a fucking fight, a proper fight. And so I asked Robbie, I'm like, hey, Robbie, how did you feel going into the fight with Roy the second time? Like, was you scared a little bit? Was you worried about like what the outcome might be? Whatever. And he just looked at me with the straightest face. He was just, no. All right, yeah, me neither. Like never. And he was just like, the worst thing that can happen is you get your ass beat. I'm just like, that's true. So like I've been trying to work on that the last couple weeks mentally. It's like, oh, the worst thing that happens is you get beat up. But outside of that, mentally, this game sucks. It takes its toll on you. I think it's 90% mental and 10% physical, for sure.
Obviously there's big mental big mental factors in this game, but also there's so many sacrifices that I think, build up to the mental.
Right.
Mixed martial arts is like no other sport. Unfortunately, winning isn't good enough in mixed martial arts for whatever reason to make it to the big shows. Like you need to go out there and you need a knockout. And if you're a guy who gets a lot of control time and wrestles but doesn't go for the finish as much, you're probably be looked down upon. In addition to that, you have to have a 9-to-5 job on the regional scene for the most time. I mean, a lot of guys that are losing money fighting on the regional scene, you throw girlfriends and their wives in there. Some have kids. You have to pay to train. You have to do this every single day. You have probably missed birthdays, anniversaries, Thanksgivings. Don't get to see your family nearly enough. You've been doing this for so long, just trying to chase this dream. You got yourself to a point where, I think the big shows are in sight. You're fighting some top guys who've been there, who have done that. What's made you keep kicking and keep punching forward?
To make it all worth it, not to look back and be like, the fuck did you just waste 10 years, 15 years of your life for? When I'm done, I at least want to look back and have something out of this game and take something from this game. Like granted, it's made me a better person. Like if you knew me 10 years ago, you would have never thought that I was about to headline a show in my home state or whatever. Or fighting for professional titles, knocking on the door of the UFC. Like this kid, no, ain't no way. So that takeaway is great. Changed me as a man, 100%. But outside of that, I do want to look back and be like, okay, well, at least got a house out of it. I put my family up. I made a path for my son in the future, or whatever. Because like you said, missing birthdays. My son's birthday is Wednesday, and I leave Wednesday. So I don't get to see him. That's its own demon in itself that we don't got to get into. But those things, you also carry them into the cage with you. So those give you motivation when you're in there. And like back to the previous thing with the mental thing, where it's all right, you have those moments where you want to quit. Those are the moments that you think about when you want to quit. Like, motherfucker, you worked how many hours a day, and then you trained every day, and then you ran hills, and then you sacrificed that one day to see your son, and then you sacrificed that other day to see your girlfriend or whatever, and now you're telling me you want to quit? No, I don't think so. So those, they kind of go hand in hand with each other when it comes to that.
I think a lot of fans, casual fans, don't realize, what all fighters go through. Obviously, have the sacrifices. But to me, I feel like there's two parts of fighting. One, it's obviously what you have to do in the cage. It's, beating the guy, getting to the next fight, getting to the higher promotions. But I think the big part that only fighters and people in this sport understand, you're fighting for more than that. You're fighting for financial freedom. You're fighting to live a life without having to clock in from 9 to 5. You're fighting to live a life on your terms and live the life that you want and not be trapped in this whole societal norms of having to work for someone. Is that a big part of your journey?
100%, 100%. Another personal thing, like my job, we're not going out of business, but the landlord is shutting down our block. They're building a hotel, so our bar is getting destroyed. So I have a month to find a new job. So now I'm stressing about that, and it's like, okay, well now I definitely got to go win because I'm about to lose my fucking job. So not having to worry about that, and I think winning this fight, I don't think I'm gonna get like Darion Abbey signed to the UFC type thing, but maybe last minute or even a contender series call at the end of the year. I think that sets me up to where, okay, I can use this money to just train until then, and then from there we can ride off into the sunset with working at bars and stuff. But for right now, yeah, it's in the back of my mind for sure. So gotta go win.
At this stage in the career, what's the ultimate goal?
Again, squeeze everything out of it that I possibly can. I'm 32. I know I still got plenty of time left, especially at heavyweight. Um, but at this point, as long as I've been doing it, I just want to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze as much as I possibly can. And that's not just saying financially. That's skillfully, knowledge of the game, everything. Like, um, as you get older, I think your body does stop. There's a learning drop off a little bit and a physical drop off. Not necessarily like you're gonna stop learning and just peak, but like you're not going as hard every day, so the skills aren't coming as quick, as they were 10 years ago. So right now, I'm just trying to, if I'm healthy and I'm strong and I'm able to do all these things, I'm trying to squeeze as much out as I can. And then in the long run, I also want millions in the bank when I'm done, or whatever it may be. If it's a hotel, if it's a business, if it's a bar, if it's a whatever it may be that I continue, if it's coaching, whatever it is, I want to be able to financially set myself up to do that through fighting.
So on Friday, you're taking on Alex Nicholson over in Iowa. Get to go home for this one. Huge co-main event spot. And, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but this is an interesting fight because you guys kind of made this yourself. I mean, you could tell that this was going to probably happen at some point. Why Alex? Why is this the perfect guy to fight?
I think it's just the perfect time. Like we've had we're kind of cut from the same cloth, I think. As far as fighting, I don't really know anything about him personally, but as far as fighting, I feel like we're pretty close to the same. We both go in there, we want to have a good show, we throw big things, we look for the knockout, we look for the finish. So I think it's an exciting fight for the fans. And then again, as a dude that along my journey I became a fan of, so it's like, oh, now I get to fight you. So that's pretty much where it sparked from.
Now, overall, as a competitor, what do you think of him as an opponent?
As a competitor, I think he's seasoned. He's been in the game a long time, but I feel from what I've seen, he's really good at being the hammer, but he's not as good at being the nail. So I plan on making him the nail from start to finish, however long it takes. If it takes me 15 minutes, that's fine. I'm going to beat him up for 15 minutes. If it takes me 15 seconds, that's even better. But I'm not really worried about what he's going to do. All I'm worried about is 900 seconds of straight action, violence.
When you look at this one on paper, it's really interesting. Obviously, he has a bit of experience of fighting in more professional fights and some big shows. You have a size and a weight advantage here. Do you feel like that is going to make a difference in this one?
I think it's huge. It's one of my big things I've been looking at, like on paper, is all right, well, I'm not that much height wise bigger than him, but as far as weight and all overall size, I've got him pretty beat. And then yeah, definitely something I'm gonna look into it. And I feel like the guys he's been knocked out by are usually bigger than him. He's usually the smaller guy in those exchanges, and I feel like Friday is gonna be no different.
For you personally, obviously, you've beaten guys that he has not beaten. You train with guys who have beaten him as well. Does that kind of add to a little more of the confidence for you?
100%. I mean, it's kind of hard not to, especially the last one. I don't really want to elaborate on it, but if they know the careers, they know. Like the two of us, they know. That last one showed a lot. I don't think MMA science and math is necessarily real at certain levels, but outside of UFC and regional promotions like this, I think it definitely plays a part. So it's not something that I'm relying on. Like, oh, I beat this guy and he lost to this guy. So it's not one of those things that I'm straight up like, oh, it's a gimme. It's just more of a mental, like, oh, you got this, big dog.
So you get to fight in home. You get to fight in Iowa for this one. Another interesting thing on paper, you're kind of that hometown hero, if you will. You're like, if we talk about this in wrestling terms, you're the Cody Rhodes. You're the Cody Rhodes of Iowa. He's the John Cena coming in, trying to spoil the parade. Does that give you a little more of a motivation to get the job done at home?
Yes and no. Yes, when I'm in there, it's really like, oh yeah, I got the city on my back, But right now, it's just I just want to beat him. I don't care if it's on the moon, I just want to fight, and I'm ready to fight. I really haven't been out of camp since like September, so I'm tired of talking about it, to be honest. I'm just ready to go.
Being able to fight at home, I've talked to a lot of guys about this, and there's some pros and cons to it. Some guys love it. Some guys, it's like, I don't like fighting at home because the whole week I'm at, where can I buy tickets? Where can I watch the fight?
Facts. Fuck. Facts. That is annoying. But the pressure is more annoying for me. It's like, fuck, can't lose in front of my mom. Can't get knocked out in front of my mom, you know. But again, once you're in there, you don't think about it. Once there's punches are zipping past your face, it's I don't care who's here. I don't care if the president's here. I'm trying to fight for my life right now.
For you, are you looking at this one as one of the biggest fights of your career, or do you just take it as just another fight?
I'm trying not to, because the Tim fight was big, you know, at the time. So it's like, who's to say my next fight's not going to be the biggest fight in my career? So it's like hard to say this is the biggest fight in my career. So far, at this moment, as far as wins and losses, yeah, I guess, you know, where I'm at as far as what's next, yes, it's the biggest moment. But last year, it was the biggest moment. So trying not to think about that and just go 1-0 on Friday. You know, I'm 0-0 today, and I want to go be 1-0 on Friday night.
You know, it's kind of crazy when you look at your career, man. Obviously, you know, you haven't reached the goal that you set out for yourself quite yet. But I mean, you've accomplished great things in this sport. I mean, you've made pro, you fought on XFC, you fought on Game Bread, you know, you've won professional titles. Is it kind of crazy to think that, you know, we're not there yet, but we've accomplished all this so far?
It's not enough, though, man. Like, yeah, it's cool. Again, I'm humbled by all the shit that I've done, you know, but it's like I'm still living in a fucking apartment with 5 dudes. So it's not enough, you know. I'm ready to get the hell out of here. I'm tired of working. I'm tired of not seeing my kid because I have to choose fighting over fucking seeing him, and fighting and working over seeing him, you know. It's tough. And I'm carrying that into me Friday, especially the fact that I'm missing my son's birthday, man. It's tough, you know, and I'm ready to go, you know.
Yeah.
Ready to get my hands on them, get in there, get out, and have a beer with my friends and get back to Florida.
No, absolutely. You know, you mentioned your son a couple times. Obviously, you know, this is a crazy journey. I mean, there's so many highs, there's so many lows to this. What do you want him to take away from your whole journey?
If I had anything to take for him to take away, it would be just to not give up on stuff, you know. No matter how hard it is, just keep going, you know. Like there's gonna be days you want to give up. Life is tough. But if I can do it, you can do it. And that's for everybody, not just my son. But I do want him to see that through it all that I didn't give up on my dreams, and that means that he shouldn't either. You know.
For you, what does it mean to call yourself a martial artist?
I'm a warrior that not afraid. Well, I'm afraid, but I'm willing to face my fears and be a fucking gladiator. You know, it's awesome. Like I love it. You know, modern day gladiator shit.
Yeah,
Look
absolutely.
myself as a Viking, so sometimes I go in there. I'm like, I'm going to Valhalla, one way or another.
There you go. All right, Darion. Last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome on Friday night when you
I
make your
knocked this
return?
motherfucker out. Respectfully, of course. But yeah, perfect world. I come in there. I really don't want to get into crazy exchanges with the guy, but if it happens, it happens. But I think I'm the more technical guy, so I think I'm gonna put it together and put him out.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Darion, man, thank you so much for your time,
Yes,
man.
sir.
I know that we only have a few more days for the fight and probably got way more better things to do than talk to me, but I appreciate it.
Always a blessing. I love it, brother.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. That's it for us this afternoon. I'm Carl Peruzza. He is Darion Abbey. He's taking on the sparring, Mr. Alex Nicholson. Friday, XFC 52. Watch it. This is going to be one heck of a fight.
Yes, sir.
Fans.